Money FM 89.3. Best of breakfast. Morning Shot.
Welcome to Morning Shot. Singaporean parents having their third child or more will receive up to $16,000 more in financial support under a new scheme targeted at large families.
Yes, and this move was announced at the recent Singapore budget, where Prime Minister Lawrence Wong said couples with more children often worry about additional costs because the demands grow with each additional child.
Among new initiatives, for each third and subsequent Singapore citizen child born from the 18th of February, parents will receive a $5,000 large family MediSave grant, as well as $1,000 each year in Life SG credits. But is that enough to encourage Singaporeans to have large families? Well, we're about to find out because we're joined on the line by Dr. Tan Poh Lin, Senior Research Fellow from the Institute of Policy Studies at NUS. Good morning, Dr. Tan.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Let's talk about the direction the government is pushing for then, that is for larger families. Do you think these incentives are enough to encourage Singaporeans to have larger families, especially for those in the sandwich generation?
I think that the fact that there is now a new scheme called the Larger Family Scheme is geared maybe at changing hearts and minds, because if you look at the package, it does provide concrete financial help. But we all know that children are more expensive than that. So I think the signaling here can be quite important. Here we're having signaling of social support that goes beyond money and can mean more assurance that having the third child has some legitimacy from a social standpoint. For example, you know that if employers can get in trouble if they pressure employees to stop at 2.
Yeah, so Dr. Tan, you talked about changing hearts and minds there. And as a parent myself, I've come to realize that raising a child isn't just about the upfront cost, right? There's so many aspects to it, like education, healthcare, daily expenses, so much more. So what are the key considerations that go through people's minds when it comes to family planning decisions today?
I think for most of us, pregnancy and delivery costs tend to hit you first, and it's usually in the thousands of dollars. And then there's also, the startup costs of buying diapers, cribs, milk powder, new furniture, doctor's visits. For some people, they even get a car, and that's enormously expensive in Singapore, of course. But I think that it's really education that tends to stick at the back of people's minds, and that's because it's a long-term cost. So I think in particular, that is one of the big ones that goes through people's minds.
Okay, let's dive in on the ballpark figure of 3 or more. Aside from cost, some of the key factors influencing Singaporeans when it comes to deciding how many children to have. What are your thoughts on that?
Of course, it's different for everyone. So it starts from perception and beliefs about yourself, your marriage, your family, and the future. And it informs how many you think, how many kids might be a good idea. Some people will say that the correct answer is 0 because they have poor physical or mental health, and they're quite firm on that. Some other people may say 0 to 2, prefer 2, but only if everything works out. So I think the social aspect is very important because we're all social animals. So there's a lot of uncertainty about the whole process of forming a family. So a certain fraction will say, maybe they'll say 2 to 4. They want a big family. And they're confident in themselves. They're confident in having family support. They're confident that as a group, they'll be able to weather through problems in the future. And that's where I think maybe, in some part, having this larger family scheme is also meant to booster that perception.
Yeah, so Singapore's approach to family planning has definitely shifted over the decades. In the 1970s and 80s, the message was stop at 2, right? Now, fast forward to today, so much has changed and the government is actively encouraging larger families. So how has public perception around family size evolved over the years for us? And what cultural or social factors play a role in these decisions around family size?
There's, I think, no doubt that the perceptions around having more children has changed over the years. I think that nowadays, some people may even think that having a second or third child is unnecessary or even unfair to the first child because it takes away mommy's energy, daddy's energy, and attention, savings in the household. So that kind of intensive parenting approach, if it's too extreme, can set up, I think, children for failure because it's been shown that helicopter parenting is actually bad for the child and take away their opportunities to have some space to grow and learn. So these days, I think people farm out, childcare, education, even socializing to third parties. But historically, within the family, siblings have always played an important role in development, and it gives the older ones leadership opportunities and the younger ones social skills. So I think that people have come to ignore the value of having siblings and put less value on that now.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Aside from one-off cash incentives, Dr. Tan, are there other support measures you think the government could consider implementing to make raising larger families more sustainable in the long term?
I think that newlyweds, for example, can benefit from getting some guidance during their marriage preparatory courses on having a reproductive health plan going forward. These days, Singaporeans are having children older. So if they're in their 30s and they want 2 or 3 children, they can get some concrete advice from the get-go. What might be a good preconception strategy? What might be a good or optimal birth spacing, instead of holding a wait-and-see attitude. I think the other side, apart from just more cash, is having a social signal sent that we as a society welcome bigger families and that there will be space made to accommodate bigger families if they come.
Okay, so Singapore isn't alone in facing some demographic challenges. Looking beyond our shores, the world's population of people aged 60 years and older is set to hit 2.1 billion by 2050. So many countries with aging populations are also trying to encourage higher birth rates. How does Singapore's approach compare internationally, you think? And are there best practices we could learn from?
Well, all over the world, low fertility is a problem. Some countries have higher fertilities than others, but we can't just copy and paste solutions or approaches from other countries because they may have a vastly different culture, such as having a high rate of births that are born outside wedlock. But the situation is quite dynamic nowadays. So new solutions are needed all the time to address the current exact set of problems. But I think that overall, if you look at the set of solutions overseas, I think we're headed for some of the same kind of approaches that have been proven to work. So we're headed towards more support for young job seekers. We have always had housing support, childcare support. And I think that now we're working towards a greater sense of social assurance and making women's well-being a priority. So these are all lessons that we've picked up that have been validated by evidence from other countries.
All right. Well, it's clear that while financial support is helpful, family planning involves a complex mix of practical, cultural, and societal factors, and Singapore's approach will need to evolve alongside changing needs. Dr. Tan, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yep, you're welcome. Dr. Tan Poh Lin, Senior Research Fellow from the Institute of Policy Studies at NUS. Stay with Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.